What if? That's a powerful statement, and for good reason. With these two syllables, two words in a single phrase, it can get your mind thinking about what things could have been, and the potential that something may have had. I think at every point in a kid's childhood, this sentence has popped up while doing something. What if I had superpowers, or what if I was a Jedi? There's so many possibilities with this statement, so much excitement to be had. Yet, at the same time, it can be used to mean something else entirely. What ifs can also be used as a lament, a reflection on how events have already transpired, and used in a way to think about how things could have been. Which is how I'd like to discuss today's topic: Blood of the Dead, the greatest what if. The potential at greatness that Black Ops 4 had still boggles my mind to this day. What can only be described as one of the peaks of the golden age of zombies with Zombie Chronicles was soon followed up with the announcement of Black Ops 4 and the new game hype. There was of course rumors, but only until Jason Blundell released our first glimpse at Black Ops 4 Zombies was when we were finally given the excitement of Blood of the Dead. I myself remember watching the live streams of the events, seeing the 9 and Voyage cutscenes, but finally being left with the familiar song of one of my all-time favorite maps, and now seeing my favorite characters in the same positions as the Mob of the Dead crew. This blew my mind. To say I was hyped was an understatement, and to be honest, I myself started doing some theory crafting of what this new Easter egg could entail. Regardless of your experience with this map, I think we can all agree that Blood of the Dead is one of the video games of all time. Interpret that as you like. Within the first few moments, we get a different viewpoint than many of us were probably expecting. The Blood of the Dead cutscene ends at the dock, our main crew surrounded by zombies ready to face the undead hordes. As we load into the actual map, however, we are instead presented at Richtofen's secret lab on the west side of the island. Cryo-freeze containers, strange computers, and experiments all around greet us rather than the undead. I remember the old modded Mob of the Dead custom map, which extends the dock and grants more areas for training, and this is what I was expecting from this map. Instead, we are faced with tight corridors, a catwalk which feels claustrophobic and unappealing to be in. This isn't to say that I hate the new industries part of the map. I think that these are some of the most interesting additions to Blood of the Dead, and do a great job of immersive storytelling and world building on the island with portions that we never got to explore. With all preconceived notions and rationale for the end product we did receive, Blood of the Dead was an ambitious and risky endeavor, even for Jason Blundell's standards. Also, if you're enjoying so far, please consider subscribing. I'm just a guy in college studying English, so I don't have a lot of time outside of school and work to do these. So if you enjoy this type of content, helping us out to grow our community really makes me enjoy making these even more and putting more quality effort into them. I know you probably watch a lot of zombie content creators and such, but just give us a chance and you can always unsubscribe later if this channel isn't your cup of tea. Anyways, enough ranting and back to the video. You know what the sad thing is? Any Zombies fan could tell you that this should have been a home run of a map. Mob of the Dead is one of the most beloved and iconic maps to ever release. Heck, even in more recent years, Rebirth Island was my favorite Battle Royale map for Warzone, and that's just Blood of the Dead straight up. The problem with Blood of the Dead was that it had the right spark of inspiration, but the wrong execution. Like mentioned, Blood had every means to be a magnum opus of zombies. We have an iconic map, the fan favorite characters, and just releasing off the heels of Zombie Chronicles and Black Ops 3, it was fair to say that Zombies fans were eating good, not to mention finally in the limelight of COD as a whole. At least from my perspective, it felt like Zombies had finally reached the peak of becoming mainstream with the franchise. Oh, how I long for those days. Even looking back, this was leaps ahead of whatever funny business Modern Warfare 3 is trying to sell us. That can be discussed another time, however. Back to Blood. The first problem, and one of the most notable is the HUD. This was and still is one of the most insufferable and unappealing looking HUDs in gaming. Now don't get me wrong, I love Black Ops 4. Dead of the Night is still one of my favorite maps, especially seeing all the meme videos about it. But that doesn't excuse the fact that someone in development made this decision to keep this HUD, and not just to port in Black Ops 3's instead. Next, the changes to the point system, including zombie kills as well as perk costs. This is a similar gripe which carries on to Cold War, and honestly it's just a matter of how iconic the traditional prices were. No one looks at Jug or Stamina and questions how expensive they are. It's something you know automatically when looking at them. But this game? Prices were changed all across the board, and you get a variety of different perks which no one really remembers the price of regardless of which machine it's at. And finally, the Easter egg. Some love it, some hate it. Me? I think I'm more so on the neutral enjoyer. I've only ever beaten the map twice, both with my group of friends that plays Easter eggs together, and each time we beat it, everyone gets burned out for like a year before we touch the map again. Even to record some of this footage in the background, it cost me an arm and a leg to get them to play the map. The Easter egg is not bad, but it's also not good. I'll also be referring to some of my friends in this section. I asked each of them what worked on Blood, but also what they would change or add if they had a chance to decide the map, so I'll show those a bit later. Within the first few rounds, Alcatraz comes alive once more in this new high-res version, which looks incredible to be honest. The ambiance, sound design, and dreary, yet nostalgic nature all blend together to create an interesting experience. The map feels immersive, larger, and more opportunities to explore the nooks and crannies, while also being your favorite cast of characters. The Easter egg, however, leaves a bitter taste in the mouth of many. Turning on the power and receiving the retriever is simple enough, yet the first step in making progress on the egg is to build the shield, a new innovative way of using shields for multiple tasks, but done poorly in my opinion. The shield is meant to be a powerful tool, and it's used wonderfully on the maps of 9, GK, and Shadows of Evil. Yet while the spectral shield fits the vibe and aesthetic of the map, the usage does not at all. The key drain ability is cool at first glance, and might seem like a helpful tool to take out the undead, but it proves to be annoying and infuriating when on high rounds trying to do an Easter egg, only to need once more to buy a new shield and suck up souls. It's a time waster, and not to mention a hazard in most cases, which really clashed against all of the steps of this egg. Like, literally, everything rides or dies with the shield, and it could have been done so much better. Even if there was a way to upgrade the shield to suck multiple souls at once, or like my friend Ollie says, to somehow rework the steps to have built-in shield blasts, would have made this process easier. Heck, even get rid of the key aspect and just convert the shield to something like the Black Ops 3 charged version. Another unfortunate thing is that there's no way to know where Pack-a-Punch is. Unlike Drak where it says which of the 3 locations the Pack-a-Punch is at, Blood of the Dead you just have to guess until you're right. And the steps for the Easter egg itself, I honestly enjoy most of them. Most of them. If I were given the chance to change anything, it would be the stupid Morse code and Simon Says step in the challenge process. Most of you who stuck around this far probably know perfectly well what I mean, but I'll explain it still. The Morse code step for the longest time seemed to be completely random, where you would just have to guess numbers sporadically until your code was accepted. Just recently, the community was able to find the real way that it was supposed to be solved by going out to the buoys on the shoreline of the map and see how many times the lights blinked. This had no tie to the map at all. Why am I looking at these for code you could have just written somewhere? And I know one of you are going to comment and say, "Oh, Hunter, it's not that bad, Hunter. You're just not good at the game. Meh, 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 meh. I got to round 100 on this map and I could still do this solo." I'm going to break your kneecaps if you write that. This is one of the worst things possible. And guess what? I'd beaten the Shadowed Throne Easter egg, which has a Morse code and a safe step, and both of those were horrible. How anyone can find any enjoyment in that? Well, sorry for your hair loss. And it's really strange that Treyarch would have adopted this into this map after seeing the backlash on Shadowed Throne. Like, you think they would learn from that. So yeah, no Morse code. The other step which needed a little bit of tweaking was the Simon Says step down in the power room. The first portion of this step is fine as is. It's challenging enough for the memorization, yet almost never infuriating. The actual lever portion is where I have my gripes. It's cool seeing a little ghost boy walk around mindlessly flipping the levers, but the fact that if you mess up one shield blast, it sends you back to square one, that is just horrible. Couldn't they have at least put a checkpoint up to the monitors so you didn't have to do the whole thing over again? Or better yet, just lead the ghost to the correct levers instead of missing your shield blast a few seconds late, and then he flips the wrong lever. Now, this whole video isn't to say that Blood of the Dead is horrible. I know it may seem that way by some of the presentation. Rather, Blood of the Dead is an interesting study, one that could have been loved by the community, and could have been considered one of the best maps of all time. The problem is that it packed so many expectations and gameplay into it, that the story and map were harmed from it. Imagine if Blood was a faithful remaster to Mob, but with a new Easter egg tied to it, or even a new setup with slightly less buggy steps. And that's the key word, imagine. Here are some thoughts from my other friend on the matter as well. I'd for sure make the Easter egg more forgiving, which, does that sound like a cop-out? Yes. But as someone who's beaten the map twice now, I'd genuinely be more eager to play what, structurally speaking, is a really cool map if the Easter egg didn't bog me down every time. Went from Mob being an easy fun egg to Blood being overly complex and difficult for no real apparent lore additions or benefits to the experience. When I wrote this, it reminded me of why such maps as Origins and Horizon are so loved, compared to maps such as Zetsubo or Tag der Toten. What's interesting to note is that challenge isn't a bad thing in zombies modes. One of the more challenging maps in Call of Duty could be anywhere ranging from Gurag Krovi, even to such things like Dead of the Night with the Scratch Step or the Atlas Puzzle. Or even Transit, which isn't so much hard as it is annoying. I think that there's difference between maps that are challenging and maps that the community considers bad. A bad map is a buggy map, and not to mention more convoluted, and as my friend said, an experience that bogs you down. A bad map also has intentional or unintentional ways of making things more difficult than they need to be. When you think of Origins, for example, this is a semi-challenging map, especially solo, but the Easter egg is integrated so well into the map itself that it's almost second nature to go through these steps as you progress your game. The opposite can be said about Blood of the Dead and its progression. If you think about it, one of the first things that you need to actually progress through the Easter egg is to open up the secret room. We now know some of the ways and strategies to accomplish this, but when the map first came out, the only possible way to accomplish this was to get to round 18 for a slamming Brutus to spawn. Additionally, finding monkeys from the box was another challenge. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like Blood of the Dead has some of the worst box luck in Black Ops 4 maps. Sure, I can get the Blunder Gap pretty frequently, but many times I can't even get a ray gun or other wonder weapons on the map, such as the Helion Salvo, let alone monkeys to set up my game. And yes, once again we know about the monkey statue, and an easier way of setting up these steps. But I guarantee that if you go into any public lobby for Blood, 9 times out of 10, people won't even know these things exist. I remember one summer I was prepping to beat the Easter egg with my friends, and I would always load into practice matches to see if anyone knew any steps. And it was shocking that most of the time people didn't even have a clue there was a secret room to start the Easter egg. This is one of the reasons why I think Blood of the Dead became too convoluted and complicated in a far greater extent than it needed to be. I think if I had one wish available for this map, it would be to reimagine the Easter egg in a way that would be challenging, but more integrated into the map, into the very essence and bone of the map itself. That's asking for a lot. But can you just imagine how exciting and innovating this map could have been if they had given themselves a little bit more development time, and second thoughts about how challenging they were going to make this map. Like I mentioned, this could have been a magnum opus of zombie maps. This could have been the start of an incredible year, one to even challenge and top Black Ops 3 from its throne. We all know and can see the reality of what events actually transpired, but isn't there something so unique and almost nostalgic about thinking about an alternate timeline for events? How something could have gone or transpired? In a way, it feels liberating to look back on the past with theories how things could have been different. And of course, there's no possible way for me to know exactly how things would have gone from there, but it's interesting to speculate and look back on the importance of events that could have shaped the future. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below if you agree or not. Maybe you had your own thoughts or theories when the map was about to release, or maybe there was something that you would add or remove if you were given a chance to input your thoughts on the map. Like I mentioned, leave a like and consider subscribing. Also, if you enjoyed Blood of the Dead, consider checking out a video essay I did a few years back on Mob of the Dead, which will be linked in the end card. It's right up your alleyway if you enjoyed this, and I tried to go deeper into the art of ambience, and how a space like Mob of the Dead was a perfect area to introduce some of the mechanics in Black Ops 2. As always, thanks for the support, and thanks for watching.